Imagine this. It's June 6, 1944. While Allied troops fight and die on the beaches of Normandy, Hitler is asleep, confident that this assault is just a diversion. His generals hold back armored divisions, waiting for a real invasion at Pas-de-Calais that never comes. That catastrophic miscalculation wasn't luck. It was engineered, carefully, ruthlessly, by a hidden web of liars, forgers, and professional traitors working for Britain and unknowingly for Germany. These were the double agents of D-Day, and their work may have saved tens of thousands of lives. In this video, we're going inside their world, how ordinary people became master manipulators, how fake armies and phantom divisions were seen by German intelligence, and how Hitler's spy chiefs placed absolute trust in men and women who were secretly working for his enemies. This isn't just a war story, it's a heist pulled on the Third Reich itself.
To understand D-Day, you can't just look at the beaches, you have to look at the lies that shaped them. This episode unpacks the true spy network behind Operation Overlord, a tangle of double agents, forged documents, fake radio traffic, and carefully planted rumors that convinced Hitler to expect an invasion somewhere else, sometime later. We'll meet the improbable people at the heart of this. An obscure Spanish chicken farmer, a playboy businessman, a French woman with a camera and nerves of steel, and the patient case officers who turned them into weapons. We'll follow how their reports traveled from dingy flats in London to polished oak desks in Berlin. As we go, notice how fragile it all really was, how a single slip could have exposed everything. If you're fascinated by the hidden side of war, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss future deep dives. And stay with me to the end for a concise breakdown of what truly made this deception work.
Before we meet the double agents, we need to understand the stage they were playing on. By 1943, Allied leaders knew they had to open a Western front in Europe. That meant an amphibious landing, one of the riskiest operations in modern warfare. The Germans knew this too. Their question wasn't if, but where and when. The obvious spot was Pas-de-Calais, the shortest distance across the Channel. Normandy, by contrast, was less fortified, but only if the Germans didn't reinforce it in time. So British and American planners launched Operation Bodyguard, a sweeping deception program to confuse German intelligence about Allied intentions. The heart of it was Operation Fortitude, convincing Hitler that the main invasion would land at Pas-de-Calais, with everything else a feint. But lies alone weren't enough. The Germans needed to believe those lies came from sources they trusted, their own spies, and that's where Britain's secret weapon, its double-cross system, came in.
Britain's double-cross system began with a paradox. Germany actually had a pretty good spy network in the UK, on paper. In reality, almost every German agent sent to Britain had been captured, turned, or quietly executed. MI5, Britain's domestic security service, realized early in the war that dead spies were less useful than controlled ones. So instead of just arresting them, they flipped them, using threats, money, ideology, or simple self-preservation. Each turned agent became a puppet. They still reported to their German handlers, but every message was supervised, edited, and often invented entirely by British case officers. Over time, this network evolved into an intricate web of fictitious sub-agents, cover stories, and carefully managed mistakes to maintain credibility. The Germans thought they had dozens of sources in Britain. In reality, MI5 was effectively writing much of the Abwehr's intelligence. This gave Allied planners a direct pipeline into Hitler's imagination, if they were daring enough to use it.
At the center of the D-Day deception stood one of the strangest figures in espionage history, Juan Pujol Garcia, codenamed Garbo. A Spaniard with no formal training, Pujol simply decided he hated fascism enough to become a spy. Rejected multiple times by the British, he approached the Germans first, convincing the Abwehr that he was operating a network of agents inside Britain, when in fact he was in Lisbon making everything up. His reports, based entirely on newspapers and imagination, were so convincing that German intelligence believed him completely. Only then did the British finally recruit him, bring him to London, and fold his fictional network into the double-cross system. Under MI5 supervision, Garbo built an army of 20-plus imaginary sub-agents, dock workers, officers, civil servants, all invented, all meticulously fleshed out with backstories and expenses. Through Garbo, Britain could feed Berlin exactly the picture they wanted, one of looming invasion, but at the wrong place and time.
Garbo was the star, but he wasn't alone. The D-Day deception relied on a cast of contrasting personalities, each playing a dangerous role. There was Duško Popov, Tricycle, a Serbian playboy whose charm and gambling habit masked a sharp intelligence and loyalty to the Allies. The Abwehr adored him. MI5 used his credibility to plant subtle misdirections about Allied strength. Then came Roman Czerniawski, Brutus, a Polish officer captured in France who appeared to switch sides, but in reality collaborated with the British. His network, once genuinely anti-German, became another channel for controlled leaks. Even more unusual was Bronx, actually Brigitte in some recon roles, and other female couriers, women whose access and apparent innocence let them move messages and photos others couldn't. Each agent brought something different: access to military circles, commercial shipping, or occupied Europe. MI5's genius was orchestrating these disparate lives into a single, coherent deception symphony. To fool Hitler, the Allies couldn't just say, "We're going to invade Pas-de-Calais." They had to build an entire fake army that proved it. This became the first U.S. Army Group, or FUSAG, an almost entirely imaginary formation supposedly commanded by General George Patton. Patton's reputation as an aggressive, headline-grabbing commander made him the perfect decoy. On the ground in southeast England, near Dover, the Allies constructed dummy camps, inflatable tanks, wooden aircraft, fake landing craft, even laundry lines and vehicle tracks visible from the air. Meanwhile, radio operators sent a constant stream of bogus traffic, logistics chatter, training messages, supply requests, designed to be intercepted. Double agents like Garbo and Tricycle reported on FUSAG's buildup, reinforcing what German aerial photos seemed to show. Piece by piece, a picture formed in Berlin, Patton's army massing opposite Pas-de-Calais, ready for the real blow. Normandy, in comparison, looked like a sideshow. The deception didn't stop at geography. Timing was just as crucial. The Allies wanted the Germans to believe that any early June landings were preliminary raids, with the main invasion weeks later. Double agents carefully built this narrative over months. Garbo's fictional sub-agents reported that key divisions of FUSAG were still forming, that vital equipment hadn't yet arrived, and that poor weather might delay operations. Tricycle passed along tidbits about supposed disagreements in Allied high command, hinting at schedule slippage. Meanwhile, real Allied planners used weather forecasts to choose June 6th, a narrow window when storms would briefly ease, conditions the Germans judged unlikely for a major assault. When Normandy was hit, these months of groundwork paid off. Many in the German command read it as a probing attack. Directives and intelligence summaries, influenced by the double agents' reports, warned that the decisive blow would still come at Pas-de-Calais. That misreading bought the Allies critical time on the beaches. The most astonishing measure of success is how highly the Germans valued these agents. By 1944, Berlin considered Garbo one of their most reliable sources on Britain. His reports were circulated at the highest levels. Hitler himself read summaries based partly on Garbo's invented network. The Abwehr even decorated him with the Iron Cross, an award usually reserved for frontline bravery. They never suspected that Garbo was sitting in London, guided line by MI5 case officers. Other double agents enjoyed similar status. German intelligence analysts cross-referenced aerial reconnaissance, signals intercepts, and agent reports, and found them to match because the Allies carefully made them match. False radio traffic confirmed fake troop movements that witnesses then described. Deception officers even allowed minor, controlled inaccuracies so the Germans could correct their picture, deepening their confidence. The result was a fatal illusion of corroboration, multiple independent sources all secretly singing from the same British written script. No spy network is perfect, and some agents in Britain's orbit were far more ambiguous. The most troubling example was Treasure, real name Natalie Sergeyou, a Russian-French woman with strong anti-Nazi feelings, but also a volatile personality and deep resentment toward British bureaucracy. Recruited by the Germans, she later came under MI5 control, yet remained unpredictable. She threatened to expose the deception when frustrated, and her emotional letters worried her handlers. Even more dangerous were cases where MI5 couldn't be certain of complete loyalty, but judged the intelligence value worth the risk. These agents might add unexpected flourishes to reports or pursue personal agendas. Deception planners constantly weighed. How much freedom could they allow before losing control? The network's brilliance lay in redundancy. No single agent carried the whole burden. If one went rogue or broke under stress, others could still maintain the illusion. But every unstable personality was another crack that could have shattered Fortitude. The true test came on, and immediately after June 6, 1944. Once Allied troops were ashore in Normandy, the double agents had to pull off an even trickier act. Convincing the Germans that this wasn't the main event, Garbo sent a crucial message, deliberately delayed by the British, warning Berlin of the invasion just hours before it began, too late to be useful. This preserved his reputation. He had tried to help, but logistics got in the way. After the landings, he and others reported that, according to their sources, German leadership must hold back reserves because a larger attack at Pas-de-Calais was imminent. Some even described conversations among Allied officers belittling Normandy as a diversion. The Germans believed them. Panzer divisions that could have counterattacked the beaches stayed pinned in the north. Hitler himself issued orders not to redeploy certain units, clinging to the fantasy narrative his own spies, secretly Britons, had fed him. The cost of this illusion was measured grimly in time. Every hour that German reinforcements failed to arrive in force at Normandy increased the Allies' chances of securing a foothold. For days after D-Day, German high command remained split and hesitant. Intelligence summaries still treated the Pas-de-Calais threat as paramount, echoing language and assessments planted by the double-cross network months earlier. Even when reality on the ground contradicted the deception, cognitive inertia, backed by trusted agents, kept the fantasy alive. Allied leaders understood this psychological dimension. They fed Berlin just enough true information to keep their sources credible, while shaping the larger story arc. Historians debate exactly how many divisions were delayed and for how long. But most agree, without Operation Fortitude and its double agents, Normandy would have faced far stronger, faster German counterattacks. The beaches we now memorialize might have become killing grounds too costly to hold. After the war, the story of the D-Day double agents remained classified for decades. Many of these people simply vanished back into obscurity. Juan Pujol faked his own death with British help, then quietly ran a bookshop and later a gift shop in Venezuela before historians tracked him down in the 1980s. Other agents died without public recognition, their wartime lies buried with them. Only in the 1970s and 80s, through declassified MI5 files and books like The Double Cross System, did the scale of the deception become clear. We learned that what German intelligence saw as a mosaic of independent sources was largely a controlled illusion. Museums and historians now highlight these operations as examples of strategic deception at its peak. Yet moral questions linger. How do we celebrate people whose heroism consisted of betrayal, manipulation, and relentless lying? In the shadow world of intelligence, the line between villain and savior can be razor thin. Let's pull together what this hidden campaign behind D-Day really shows us. First, intelligence isn't just about collecting secrets, it's about shaping what the enemy believes. The double-cross system turned German espionage into a conduit for British fiction, proving that controlling information flows can be as decisive as firepower. Second, these operations depended on fallible, often eccentric individuals, gamblers, idealists, opportunists, and survivors. Their personal quirks made them believable to German handlers, but also made them risks to their British controllers. Third, deception worked because it moved in harmony with other tools, fake armies, forged documents, and carefully choreographed radio traffic. None of it would have mattered without the willingness of German leaders, especially Hitler, to believe what fit their preconceptions. In the end, the double agents of D-Day remind us that wars are fought not just on beaches and battlefields, but inside minds, where the most powerful weapon is a convincing lie. If this look into the double agents behind D-Day changed how you see the Normandy invasion, there's a lot more we can explore together. We've only scratched the surface of Allied and Axis deception. There are entire campaigns built on forged documents, fake resistance networks, and even phantom fleets. Tell me in the comments which angle you'd like to dive into next. More on Garbo's personal story, the rivalries inside German intelligence, or how modern militaries still apply Fortitude's lessons today. If you haven't already, subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss upcoming deep dives into the hidden layers of history. And if you found this valuable, consider sharing it with someone who only knows D-Day from the beach landings. The more we understand how information, trust, and illusion shape the past, the better prepared we are to question the narratives we're given now.